Yo, yo, yo. Welcome back. Skinny Black's Lounge. My name is Rob, aka Skinny Black. If you don't know how we got to Skinny Black's Lounge, watch episode 1. All right, cool. To my left, we got my man, Rennie. What you got to say, Rennie? Welcome.
Good evening.
Okay, there it is. And across from me, we got my man, JT. What's up, JT? What you got to say?
Hi, Mom.
All right, there it is. So, we're going to hop right into it. We're getting more efficient. At some point in time, any point in time that we have a segment on the show called Trigger Warning, any point in time, we'll give y'all a heads up when we think it's possibly coming. So with that, let's hop into it. We're going to talk about manhood. So what is manhood? What makes a man? What are we talking about, gentlemen?
We got a set of values and principles.
Okay.
Based in whatever moral code you ascribe to, and you build from there, and we establish these very young age, and who administers these principles? Who creates these? Who creates these values for the young men? Is my question.
Okay, JT?
If we're going to define manhood in just a sentence, paragraph, phrase, or something, I would agree. Set of principles, guiding, all of that. It's also things that can be passed down through generations.
Legacy.
It's portable.
Okay.
Okay? Some of that shit ain't a legacy. Some of that shit is just portable. You gotta throw away. Right? If it's done correctly, it becomes a legacy.
Yes, sir.
Some bullshit legacies too.
Yeah.
But yes, principles, values, things to stand on, things to guide you, and it has to be able to be passed down. Passed down through generations, it becomes wisdom when it stands the test of time, because the generational thing will be the test of it. Because, stuff that applied in the 1840s.
It doesn't apply now.
Exactly.
Necessarily apply now.
Yeah, but some stuff,
definitely
staying strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what I've learned about culture is that culture is nimble, right? Just because you did something 60 years ago don't mean that it's relevant today. So I agree with that.
One in a row.
One in a row. There it is.
Write that down.
Yes.
When you agreed.
So what is or was one of your greatest challenges in your manhood journey?
I would say that my greatest challenge is to identify what I need and then be able to articulate that to the world and let that actualize and bring that to fruition. What exactly do I need? Not just living in service of other people and going out and performing acts. Like, what do I need? What do I need to reinvigorate me? What do I need in order to what are my passions? What do I need to replenish myself in this space? And having an understanding of, we as we grow, and depending on your household, most of the men that I grew up with were in service of their family, and so in that path and watching them in service of their family, I rarely ever saw them in service of themselves. And even the things that they derived pleasure in, it was always external based pleasure dependent upon someone else's happiness. So, for instance, my grandfather and how invigorated he was by the success and advancement of his children, or their happiness, just in their inherent happiness, and the amount of energy exerted by him, my pops, and these different people who wanted to see their family in a state of happiness, And so I rarely ever I rarely ever asked. Not to say that they didn't know, but I didn't know to ask. Like, well, what do you love besides these things that are dependent upon these external factors? Like, what are the things that relate to you that you have that are internally, your internal motor, your internal engine that you have a passion for? And it may not have been anything of depth. That may have been what their primary was, but I didn't know to ask that. So it took me a long time for me to be able to identify, hey man, what is it that you really did? Like, what is it that you actually love? I had a therapist to ask me one time, man, give me 5 things that you love. And I was like, okay. And I gave him 5 things. And he said, yeah, now give me 5 things that aren't dependent upon something else and someone else. Ooh. And I couldn't come up with anything.
Wow.
I'm in alignment with that. I called it, I call it now standing on your square. So much of my upbringing was about, okay, you're a man, you need to do X, Y, and Z. All right, take care of your family, protect your family, do this, do that. Well, very little was explained to me about me. All right, so standing on your square is, this is me, this is who I am, this is where I get my happiness from, right? And I'm not moving off of this square just to please you, right? My square is a no tap dancing zone, right? I'm not Sandman. I'm not going to lay down the sand and shuffle for you. Where we run into problems as men is when we tap dance, we get results. So we learn, okay, I want that woman. Let me tap dance, and then she'll give me some. Ta-da, tap dancing works. Standing on your square oftentimes doesn't work. It's not an immediate gratification. Right. The principle of delayed gratification is something we're lacking in our teaching, all right? Because we're trying to get everything quick. Bow, bow. But you're left with a hole, okay, because you cheated yourself to get there.
Say more about that hole.
It's based off of that principle. You weren't true to yourself to get to that outcome, right?
Okay.
Many of the outcomes we're taught don't lead to fulfillment. That leads to another thing that was a challenge for me. All of this stuff ties in, but you have to find out what your grounding philosophies are. Mm-hmm. Now, we all have different grounding philosophies. You may have some that in common, but we separate at certain points. I'm not here to judge what yours are, but you need to stand on those. So when the shit hits the fan and I see you retreat off of those, I'll be like, oh, you just did that for show. Right. It sounded good in the conversation, right, but when it really went down, oh, you didn't want to do it.
Or you lack character.
He's on some bullshit.
And when you meet a woman, she's going to test your philosophies.
Every second.
Okay. We're the test of each other. She's going to test them. Oh, okay. That's what you stand on? All right. Oop.
Let's see.
No, you don't. Sandman. And once you're a sucker all the way through.
Man.
It's hard to get that back.
So my biggest one challenge in my manhood journey was figuring out who I was. And figuring out who I was meant, my vision, my purpose, my values, and my guiding principles, right? So again, going back to what both of you guys said, what do I stand on? What's my square? And what the hell do I want, right? What do I want? What I love? What means the most to me? And where am I going? Where am I going? And who do I have to evolve as a person, as a man, to be there, to get there, along that journey. So that was the biggest manhood challenge for me.
I want to bring up something that I brought up the last time we talked because it's important. It's like 1A, 1B in the challenge department for me, and it was big. And it was the mastery of emotions. There's a misconception that men don't feel this, or men don't feel that. Well, the current state of manhood is overly emotional. The pendulum has swung our father's generation to this generation.
Stoicy.
Right. It swung the other way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's either one. You still have to get that mastery. Non-emotion, we're not Vulcan, right? All the way over here, pretty much the entirety of my bad decisions have been made when I was emotional. Because that emotion eliminated my thought process.
Wow.
And my thought process is the key to success.
Absolutely.
I have to be able to take a step back. It's almost as if I have to step outside of myself in a situation and go, wait a minute, I know you're feeling like this, right? But what's best? Because regardless if we like it or don't like it, we are judged as men on our outcome.
Bingo.
And that emotion will lead most times to a bad outcome. And you'll get blamed even more when it goes sideways.
Man.
And if you've been robbed of your emotions,
Mm-hmm.
you don't know how to access those emotions. So someone has to give you a space to validate the emotions that you're having. Like, hey, no, it's okay. I understand you're going through something. Now let's talk through this. And what we're doing now is we're confusing emotion for emotionally articulate, and the ability to manifest and express those emotions in a way and articulate those emotions in a way so that the people that you're involved with can understand that. Just because you're emotional doesn't mean you're articulating the level of the emotions and what the things that set into the set of circumstances to create that emotional state. And so what I do often, specifically with my nephews and things like that, is I say, hey, you know, you're okay to feel that way, but you may not have arrived in that emotional space looking at it clearly and looking at the circumstances around it. You may have misjudged what you were seeing, and thereby which you're in an emotional state. It's not that your emotions aren't valid, it is the pathway by which you landed in that space. You're not looking at the construct of what it is properly. Now let's reevaluate it, and then let's assess your emotions after we reevaluate those circumstances, and let's see if you still feel the same way. But I'm not going to rob you of how you feel in that moment.
Now, that's beautiful that they have you, but most people don't. So,
but we never had that any kind of stuff.
Hell no.
You know, and it was, I mean,
No.
that's some punk stuff.
yeah, no.
You know,
No, they got-
that's some punk, you
Well,
know.
my next question is going to be, so where do we go to find that space? And it sounds like you're about to head there.
Well, for those who don't have Uncle Rennie,
Right.
which this is not scientific, but I'm going to say 90% of y'all don't have Uncle Rennie.
95.
Yeah, you have to create your own space.
Yeah.
Even within relationships, friendships, the woman you're with, you may be feeling some kind of way and be able to articulate it very well. That does not mean,
You're going to be allowed to have that.
and they're going to be receptive to that emotion.
Definitely.
So as men, one of the challenges is to be self-contained. To create a space for yourself to experience, to have all of those that doesn't have to be validated by anyone. I can have my own experience, walk through my own steps, and come out on the other end okay, because the most important person said it was okay.
How do we start that?
Me.
When do we
homeboy.
start that? At what age? And how do we nurture that space to get you to that mindset? That's my question.
You're a teacher. I could read when I got to school. You teach based on how they come to you.
Yes, sir.
So in a perfect world, it will start really early.
Yeah,
Obviously, we're not in a perfect world.
definitely not.
Okay, so it's as it comes.
Yeah.
When you're ready, it starts to happen. I would love to say, oh, at this age, and da 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 da. It started for me later in life.
Started to me in my 30s.
Somebody said to me, oh, I disagree with what you said the last episode. I said, I disagree with myself, what I said 5 years ago.
Real talk.
All right. So you're on your path.
Yeah.
But when you become self-contained, and not meaning self-contained in can't nobody tell me nothing. Self-contained in This is what I believe, and I've believed the same thing since I was 15, and now I'm 50. That means you're closed off. Closed off isn't self-contained.
Which is another thing we'll add as we finish this emotional component, that you're responsible as a man for cultivating your own circle and not an echo chamber. And something that you could bounce ideas off of, and people that will hold you into account. You have to create a circle that will do that for you. And part of that manhood is being able to identify those individuals who will do that for you. And it's not always about the people in proximity, meaning you have friends that are built off mutual interest over life, and you have friends of proximity that you've been around forever. And by virtue of that, you have these ties, and that may not necessarily serve you anymore in your space. So as a man, you have to be able to cultivate a cabal of young men.
Write that down.
Who will help you.
Only if you watch the
develop.
Blacklist do you know that. No.
To help you develop and to help you grow. And that's going to push that growth at the same time.
Take it to the old school. Your circle. It's typically the person you disagree with, that gets on your damn nerves, that you have the most conflict with, is the person that you probably had a capacity to sharpen yourself with and learn the most from. Old school washing machine. Laundry, boom, boom, boom. Yeah, old school. Going to the east side. Okay, clothes, laundry, bleach, if you could afford it, all that in there. Don't mean nothing without the agitator. You had to have the agitator, the machine, to get those clothes to rub. That scrub makes them come clean. If you don't have an agitator in your life, right, whether it's your circle or yourself, how many people have the ability and capacity as they sit right now to question themselves thoroughly?
The only analysis is self-analysis.
But if you don't have it, start with a friend. In that interaction with that friend, take that interaction and then put it on yourself. If you have to use that friend example, say for Rob, for years me and Rob would go at it. But if I'm sitting alone, okay, what would Rob say to me right now?
Same here.
You've had enough conversations
right.
to know, okay, well, he would say this, or
Right.
I think he would ask that.
Right.
Ask that question to yourself.
Yep.
Then can you be honest with yourself in the answer?
Can you be honest with yourself? That is the true test. You know, are you looking for an echo chamber?
And let me just say, I've been a lying motherfucker in my life.
Lied to myself.
The biggest lie I ever met was myself.
In the mirror.